Oh, there we go. Can you guys hear me now? Check the. All right.
What was it? You just needed
All's well that ends well. Can you guys hear me? Are there folks in the Telegram that are?
Yvonne is joining us. Right.
But can they hear?
We're waiting. They're typing. Yes, all good now.
All right. Success, my favorite word in Indonesia. S-U-K-S-E-S. Success. All right. Okay, that only took 5 minutes. Sorry, guys. All right, let's kick things off here, folks. What about the price? 2,587 and some change. And this is down a little bit since last week because a lot has happened in the last week, right? It's been a wild roller coaster ride. We got a blog post from Bitmain that sent everyone into a tizzy. We're going to talk about that tonight. Here's the Bitcoin time machine. We were at 2,700 last week, and then look at this steep slope down and to the right after what happened? Anybody remember what happened? Why this precipitous drop in the price? Yeah, well, it was this this guy Jihan Wu from Bitmain. Well, maybe not him personally. He didn't sign his name to the blog post, but this was a blog post in reaction to the user-accepted soft fork that we talked about 2 weeks ago. Remember, the warring factions of Bitcoin are trying to get their way, and it seems we're at an impasse. And the opponents to the user-accepted soft fork published a blog post that said, if the soft fork continues, we will, come on in, Mark, we will do X, Y, Z. We'll get to that. Right now, we're just talking about price. The price has come down, but you can see that, you know, the initial evaluation of that blog post was disastrous for Bitcoin. We lost probably tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in value. But as people evaluate the gravity of this change, you can see the price climbing back up, and we're back right up here. Well, not quite back up to 2,700, but we're working on it. Did any of you guys watch what happened to all of the altcoins when this happened?
The whole page was red.
Yes, this column right here shows the 24-hour change, and I don't think I saw one single red figure. I'm sorry, green figure.
Ripple.
Was Ripple in the green? Okay. Anybody care to postulate why Ripple would be green and all the others would be red?
It's a bank coin.
It's a bank coin. Ripple's a little bit different. I don't really understand Ripple all that well. But it always has been a bit of an outlier because it's more rails for bank settlement, and there's a huge number. I mean, look at this outstanding supply just dwarfs almost every other coin. NEM, by the way, I think is something similar to Ripple with an equally large, crazy large supply of coins. But anyway, the point is when Bitcoin price came crashing down, all of these other altcoins also went down in value. And you guys noticed this, right? So this was an interesting thing for me because I always thought if Bitcoin fails, like won't one of these others go up, right? Won't there be a giant rushing sound from Bitcoin into the next best thing, right? But it didn't seem that happened, which tells me that maybe people are exiting to fiat and not the altcoins.
Yes.
Well, it's a safe bet. If you go into the altcoin market caps, you'll see it's in a bubble, right? Altcoins aren't safe right now. It's just gone up. It's gone up. It's gone up like what? It went from what was it?
The whole altcoin market?
4 billion market cap to 60 billion or something in a matter of months. You can see that. Yeah. All right. What we got?
So the total market cap is 114.
Yeah, let's go here. Let's have a look. Now tell me that's not a bubble. Right? It's like, would you get out of Bitcoin and go into that? Right? So it's not a safe place. So people have been exiting to fiat.
But what about the flippening, man? What about the flippening?
Okay. Thank you for the segue. Who's this? How come I can't see the mouse?
Oh, because you're on this screen. That's like a shared.
Oh, this one. All right. Okay. So let's just go back here and zoom in a bit.
Yeah, that's a tough graph to
Zero
angle.
buttoning for the last 3 months. There we go. So it hit resistance 3000 psychological, second resistance, and it was weakening up. And then we had this big crash, and this was the Jihan thing, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So it does this sort of bounce up and down, and it was a real bear market. And then somewhere around here it started to teeter, and that was this weekend. And what happened was there were rumors amongst traders that something was coming out of China that was pro SegWit 2x. Do you guys know what SegWit 2x is?
I've got some tabs on it.
We're going to talk about it? All right.
Yeah.
So it's just pro resolving this roadblock. And so what we saw was in China, huge volumes were being bought, and then markets followed. And then, have you got that? You got that?
Yeah. Here, let me. Yeah. What, was it yours?
Oh, I wasn't gonna do a slot. I was just gonna. Anyway, let's just do this.
Which one do you want?
What is it?
Graphs are us.
I was just expecting this to be price coverage. Did you get that paste? Here we go. This got posted. And this was an announcement by many of the mining pools to support the segregated witness 2x protocol. And that happened in the weekend, and that's what happened. We saw a lot of confidence come back into the market, and it broke that downward trend that we were in. So yeah, so it's looking back into a bullish move right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if it just carries on up. And and the last thing that we've just been talking about amongst my friends is, where was that?
Which one do you want?
CoinMarketCap.
Oh, I'm listening. Did we close it? You might have closed it on.
We just had it there. There you go.
There it is.
One more. One more.
Here you go.
Here we go.
Oh boy.
Oh my.
All right.
Yes.
Hey, Sophie.
Cheers.
There's some room over here in this corner.
Corner.
Stand over there.
Come on in, guys.
You're gonna buy
Make
some
yourself at home.
skin coin?
That's an ICO. You got to get in on there.
Okay. Esports. You don't need to actually do any exercise to play sports anymore.
Really? That sounds wonderful.
Apparently. No, Gary, you gotta come play Disney again.
Okay, so
All right.
carry on.
So have you guys noticed how Bitcoin and Ethereum are tracking? They're going up and down together.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like E.T. and Elliot.
And they used to be opposite, right? They used to be negatively correlated. And we started to see a whole lot of money flow into the crypto space in general, and this was the indicator for money flowing in. As they started to correlate, it just meant that the money coming in and flowing into both of these coins were outweighing their negative correlation. That was because Bitcoin looked very, very weak in terms of a civil war, and people wanted to diversify into the next coin that was the next biggest volume. If you're going to pour in a lot of money, you want a coin that can take that money without moving too much. And I noticed that just as of this weekend, so this is 7 days, so roughly around the time of these rumors and the announcement, you're starting to see a divergence happen. And so that, it's a theory, but that could be an early sign that we're going back to this this old pattern of divergence and money flowing from Ethereum back into Bitcoin. The early guys that are smart, and that has repercussions for probably a lot of these altcoins, particularly the weak ones. They might suffer as Bitcoin gains, unlike what happened last week when Bitcoin was red and altcoins were red.
Fascinating.
There you go.
The other thing that I'll just quickly mention is, although a lot of the altcoins were down double digits, Litecoin was down single digits. And that also told me that perhaps some people are looking to Litecoin as an incumbent or as a hedge against Bitcoin failure. Litecoin is just a fork of Bitcoin. It was the first altcoin ever. They changed the hashing algorithm. They changed the total number of coins. And they changed the block time. But otherwise, it's Bitcoin. And I don't know if you've been paying attention, but Litecoin now has the scaling technology of Bitcoin integrated into Litecoin. This segregated witness that we keep talking about, that has been adopted by Litecoin. So Litecoin has the latest scaling technology that was intended for Bitcoin, but was adopted by Litecoin. And so we now have in Litecoin a very scalable coin. It doesn't have the ubiquity or the network effects that Bitcoin has, but it does have the technology and it does have a market value. And that was just my armchair analysis, that it fell a lot less than other coins. And so it's an interesting thing to keep your eye on. You want to say anything about volatility? Where we're like way out in the stratosphere here. Last week we were at 17. Now we're at 20, almost 23.
Yeah.
We're way outside our trend, that green trend line. I guess it's just crazy days, huh?
It is crazy days. It's just crazy days.
We're messing up our arrival at 20.
Interesting is that, like, sorry, it's this is a real shit graph actually. I've got the proper graph. My hosting provider decided to delete the database on this, so the old database had the stuff back to here, and this is the software just regenerated this from outside sources, but it's missing this data. But the old data went back to here, and I did this calculation. This is regression, and so this is like that trend line that we're seeing with volatility. And I always was wondering why this trend line, which I just put the peaks on, well, no, it was actually a calculation between all these peaks, and I was wondering why it didn't line up with this line. If you'd taken this like 3 standard deviations, I think it would have created a line similar to this. And yeah, it's now showing that was probably more correct. Volatility is the probability of the price changing within 1 standard deviation, which means around 65% chance of, like 22%. The price will change, but within a 22% band, within 65% probability. Now, if I took 3 standard deviations, it would go to 95 and then 99. 99% chance would lie within this band. And I think that would have been the better line to draw.
And so, well, the interesting thing about this graph, though, is when does volatility intersect with the volatility of USD, New Zealand dollar, or the euro?
Yeah,
because that's when you can rival these big currencies in terms of volatility. It becomes more useful as a medium of exchange. Hi, come on in. It's a packed house, sorry. You might have to stand. But so, and you had us at 2019.
Yeah, 2019.
Like at this time last year.
Like this is the peak with it, 5% roughly.
And now we're like out to 2024.
It could be. It could be.
So we've got to wait until 2024 before you can really count on Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, right? Is that the rule of thumb?
if we think of it traditionally, yeah.
Yeah. Any questions on this? Something we keep an eye on. Did you want to look at CoinDance?
Yeah, okay, just quickly. Did you talk? This is kind of out of skew, eh? Have you talked about SegWit 2x?
No, we're going
You're
to.
going to. Let's
So
do
should we come back to that? Okay. All right, guys. So 2 weeks ago, we talked about the Bitcoin scaling problem. We talked about BIP 148, or the user-accepted soft fork. I put half of you guys to sleep because it's a very technical, convoluted discussion, but it's interesting in that it means a possible fork of Bitcoin, which means that Bitcoin's value could go down. The public confidence in Bitcoin as a store of value could be harmed, and we're all keeping our eyes on this because we want Bitcoin to scale, but we don't want it to break up into 2 or even maybe 3 blockchains in the midst of trying to solve this scaling problem that we've all been dealing with Bitcoin for the last couple of years. So the one thing we didn't really talk about in great detail was what's called, what is it, SegWit 2x, which stands for, and it's referred to as the New York Agreement, because a bunch of prominent people in Bitcoin sat down at Consensus 2017, which was in New York City, and they said, hey guys, let's try and solve this problem. We can all agree on something, and they named it SegWit 2x, which was a combination of segregated witness, which effectively increases the block size to 2 megs, and 2x is an explicit 2 times increase in the block size. So these are the 2 things that people have been fighting about: segregated witness versus on-chain scaling, or just making the block size bigger. And Barry Silbert, I think, tried to get everybody together and say, hey, why don't we do both of them, right? And essentially, it's not really that complicated in terms of what's actually happening. He said, why don't we start with segregated witness, and then 6 months later, we'll do 2x, right? And let's see if I can find that. Where did that go? There it is. This was the thing they published back in May of 2017. Bitcoin scaling consensus. Activate segregated witness. And by the way, it's at an 80% threshold. The original segregated witness required 95% threshold. And then activate a 2 megabyte fork within 6 months. And then they got a bunch of people to sign. Look at all these people. These are all the signatories. All right.
He's really
Including
good with
Gavin.
people.
He is a uniter, not a divider.
He's really good with people.
Actually, we've got a. Where is the? And this is the latest thing that was posted on Reddit, where they've got, here's the aggregate of the hash rate, where we are now, at least on a handshake deal, we are over the 80% in terms of hash rate. They've all made the announcement that they are on board, but there is a bit that you need to signal whenever these miners find a new block. They can set a bit that says they're actually going to do it. And there's a few in here that are not actually setting that bit just yet. Why? Why wouldn't they? Because there's we're talking about running new software here, guys. This is something that Bitcoin Core is not on board with. I mean, they wrote SegWit, so in a sense, we are implementing their code. But this solution, they're not on board, right? So.
What does that mean? Announce support and then no to 2x. What does that mean?
Where does it say? You say no? So there's a text area within the block and the Coinbase where you can write NYA, New York Agreement, and that's what the announced support is. But the signaled support is in the bit. They have to set a bit to one of the bits that used for signaling. I don't know exactly what the value is, but these guys haven't set that bit in the blocks that they're finding yet.
So they're presuming that that's like, we're not going to do it, or that was what was agreed, that you're going to set that bit to say I'm going to follow through.
Right, that the bit says I'm actually going to follow through.
Okay.
And the reason that they don't have that set yet is because of this question. Where is it? the elephant in the room is the 2 megabyte hard fork that happens within 6 months, right? This is the thing that they always fought about, right? And the guys at Bitmain were like, we want on-chain scaling. We don't want segregated witness. We want 2 megabyte blocks, or some of them even wanted more than 2 megabyte blocks. And we had Bitcoin Unlimited and Bitcoin Classic. You remember all this? We talked about this every Tuesday. And we later came to learn that there was something called Asic Boost. Do you guys remember Asic Boost, or remember reading about Asic Boost? Basically, this is a quote-unquote hack that allows some miners to get more hashing power out of their equipment. But segregated witness breaks that hack. So we had miners in China that were, I guess we don't, there's a little bit of room back there if you want to stand. Yeah? No, can't get there? Okay. Okay, so anyway, stick with me here because this is fascinating. Bitmain, Jihan Wu, these are the personalities involved. They said that they wanted scaling, but if they did it with segregated witness, then they would miss out on all this extra hashing power that they had. So they were making excuses like, we don't want segregated witness, it's not safe, we'd rather have on-chain scaling, because they wanted to preserve this, this advantage that they had, right? But they were playing a game, right? And they were disingenuous, at least that's the way the story goes. And it was discovered, this Asic Boost thing was discovered, and of course they denied it, but they have no way to save face, right? They need to stick with their original story. Hey, we want 2x. We don't want segregated witness. And really, I think this is what Barry has overcome, is giving these Chinese miners a way to save face, right? To say, okay, we're going to give you a chance to cooperate. You can stick with your story that you want 2x. We're going to give that to you within 6 months. But in the meantime, let's do segregated witness. Everybody's happy.
And it's totally to save face, right? Because once SegWit comes in, the Asic Boost is
right. Asic Boost is over, and they no longer have this advantage. I mean, they're making extra millions and millions of dollars because of this. So, and Bitcoin allows for bad actors. It's supposed to exist in a world where anybody can do anything, right? In fact, it would have been cool if you just would have come out and said, hey, look, I'm making more money with Asic Boost, like, so I don't want segregated witness. And then we'd have that thing to deal with. And maybe that's how we'll deal with the next problem that comes along. But we have this fascinating human factor involved, what I like to call the soap opera factor of this adventure novel that we're in. And thanks to Barry Silbert, we've now got a way for them to say, oh, okay, we'll let you do SegWit, but you got to let us do 2x. And it seems that we're there. Now, there's a little bit more to the story, right? We don't know how this 2x is going to happen. And that's probably why some of these miners are signaling no. And all of this has to be implemented in a very short period of time, right? They're talking about doing this, having production code by July 16th. What's today? The 20th? So a few weeks away, they're going to try and hammer this production code into Bitcoin. Now, it's simply segregated witness, which has been highly tested and is highly, well, we've already got it implemented in Litecoin, and it's working great. But this 2 megabyte hard fork, we don't really know. And the implementation is not Bitcoin Core. We're asking all these miners to run a release of Bitcoin consensus software that was not released by Bitcoin Core, which Bitcoin Core is the core group of developers that have always released the production code. And they're on one side of the impasse that we've all had. So I don't know. I mean, when things get implemented, if they don't do something right, I mean, they're not used to rolling out production Bitcoin code, and they've got to do it on a short timeline.
It's right? By Jeff Garzik, isn't it? And Jeff Garzik is
Jeff Garzik.
A pretty famous Bitcoin developer.
He has
written a lot of code.
Is he writing this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
and also the code's been written by Core anyway. He's probably just pulling on the implementation, right?
Right. This whole thing has got to follow a series of Bitcoin improvement plans, the BIPs that I mentioned. There's like a bunch of them that will cascade together if this thing all goes according to plan. And I won't bore you with naming the numbers, but you know this SegWit 2x has a BIP and then that's going to trigger another BIP, and that's going to trigger the original SegWit BIP 141, which, you know, and anyway, you can do your own research and figure out how this cascade is going to happen. But we're really threading the needle here, guys. I mean, we're going to know a lot before August 1st.
Gary, what happens if they take on that new bit of code that's not core and has not had the testing time? It doesn't matter who's freaking writing it, it's who's testing it. I mean, it matters who's writing it, but the testing process, if it's not core and it's outside that, who knows? What's the consequence if it's got some bugs? What happens to all of Bitcoin if a whole bunch of these guys take on this fork?
Good question. Good question. I don't know.
Sense?
Volatility, for sure. Volatility, for sure.
Yes.
I guess it depends on the bug. Doesn't it?
It will be going wildly well, and
It'll go
Like
wild.
the DAO. You have one bug and then people get it. Because
Right.
could it have that kind of consequence where it undoes the whole thing?
Yeah. Now keep in mind that we are talking about implementing segregated witness, which is highly tested, and this other hard fork doesn't happen for 6 months, right? So we're really talking about implementing segregated witness,
Oh,
which
that's core.
well, but it has to be, yeah, and it's very highly tested, and it's already working in production
So
with
we've got more
Litecoin.
time to do the other one that's
Yeah, and we've got we probably have to sort out the 2x thing as well before these guys will agree. So we have to know a priori.
It doesn't have to be fully tested. It has to be more the mechanism, and then people have to have confidence they've got time to test it and all that, right? Because you can stage these things.
It's more the rollout process that's dangerous. But I think the functional software should be well tested software. I mean, it's computer software. Human beings are involved. We don't know what's going to happen.
Do you guys know what the difference between a soft fork and hard fork is?
I assume a soft fork is one you can back out of, and a hard fork
Kind
is
of.
one
It's like one is backward compatible upgrade. So all the guys that haven't upgraded the new software can still run on the new blocks, whereas hard fork is not backward compatible. So everybody's got to upgrade their software, or they're kicked off the network, or they'll be running on their own altcoin essentially. So,
Right. And that's actually what was threatened in response to the user accepted soft fork. So on August 1st, we've got this other thing. We talked about it 2 weeks ago. Sorry if I'm losing you guys, but it's all part of the story. But in response to the user accepted soft fork that was supposed to be implemented August 1st, Jihan Wu suggested what he called a user activated hard fork, which is really a Bitmain activated hard fork, which would create 2 chains and a big mess. And this is actually what we were discussing, why the Bitcoin price went down. This is why it went down, because of that blog post about the user activated hard fork.
So what I'm most curious about is how will this affect developers? Is it going to make it a lot more complicated? Like imagine on Android having all these different screen sizes and trying to write an application for it. Is that really who's going to be affected for this? Other than people maybe losing money from volatility?
Well, it does create a problem for the exchanges and for the wallet providers in the sense that you're talking about, because all of them need to create contingencies for 2 versions of Bitcoin. How do you arrive at prices? How do you match buy and sell orders when you broadcast a transaction? Do you broadcast it to one chain and not the other? How do you tell your user which chain he's interacting with? I mean, it's a big mess from a usability standpoint. But we're talking about the core consensus rules. It has to be a smaller change, and it has to be adopted by over 80% of the miners, and they can coordinate their efforts or not in a pretty unambiguous way.
So for the people who've got glazed eyes, this is about why the price of Bitcoin went down a bit,
Yes.
because there isn't a confidence in the technical solution around scalability, which means how to let more people use Bitcoin and get their transactions processed faster.
That's right. Yeah, that's a good summary. And then it came back up because we had the New York agreement. People are starting to signal that they support the New York agreement, and it looks like there's working software now that they're testing. They're talking about flipping the switch on July 16th. And then once they do that, they just need to get, I think, 363 blocks that are found using the new software, and then it will activate, right? That's about, I think, 56 hours worth of blockchain time. You know, we get a new block every 10 minutes, and 360 blocks is about 56 hours. So mark your calendar. Maybe we should have a party. We like to have parties around here. July 16th, or maybe we should do it July 18th. We can either drown our sorrows because Bitcoin is broken, or we can toast a world where segregated witness is implemented.
In every one of these scenarios, isn't it inevitable that Bitcoin is going to split? I mean, even when you're talking about with the hard fork later on, aren't there going to be a portion of people that are likely going to continue on the same path?
Go ahead.
There's enough majority. I think this is what they do. Why they're doing a staggered approach. If it's 80%, and we say get 90%, it's unlikely it'll split because.
Didn't Ethereum go through that same sort of situation, and some people continue to build on that same?
Ethereum's quite different from Bitcoin in that there's the difficulty algorithm, which resets at a certain time. And so what happens is if the hashing power split to 10%, 90%, that means only 1/10 of the miners are trying to crack that puzzle. And that puzzle's set so that it gets cracked every 10 minutes. And so 90% go here, then it'll get cracked at 11 minutes, say. This thing would be 90 minutes. So
Or more.
Or more. Actually, I think it's exponential, isn't it? It's days, weeks.
Right.
So this network that splits, that's a minority, will freeze up. No one's going to use it because you can't process transactions.
Too difficult, not enough.
Right. So it should snap back over.
So,
In principle.
in principle.
All right. What else can we say about this? We'll put this in the notes, but there's a detailed description of how these BIPs need to orchestrate together. It's basically a series of things need to happen, and it's outlined in this article by Jimmy Song. We've been talking about his articles in the past as well, and this was just published recently. Any questions about the future of Bitcoin? Because I don't really know what the answer is, but
I guess put your money in Ethereum Classic, maybe. Where do you put your money?
What's
That's actually been all the I've ever done.
it has.
what plan does the Bitcoin Core guys back?
Which plan? They back segregated witness BIP 141.
That doesn't sound like it's a player anymore, though.
Well, it actually gets invoked along the process. There's a bunch of Bitcoin improvement processes that will be followed. There's kind of a cascading effect. They're kind of stringing these along, and BIP 141 is in that chain of.
So those guys are on the same board with Segwit 2x. They want Segwit 2x.
Well, the Bitcoin Core has not, as far as I know, they haven't said this is a great idea, and they're not in charge. Like the software that they're asking miners to run, you know, all this 80% of the hashing power. This is going to be software that was not released by, not in total released by the original software guys.
But
It's like a hostile takeover.
But their plan's part of it.
Yes, their whole segregated witness implementation is part of the plan, and so they will get their software working if this thing all goes right. So maybe they're
Seems
just
like they're trying to appease a lot of parties.
this is the nature of this new technology we're wrangling with. It's immutable, right? It's an immutable ledger. It's no one's in charge. So if we want to make a change, we all got to agree. And
Enough people.
yeah. But it's also a little bit imprecise because, well, the scenario that Willie was describing, like you have so much of a majority that, you know, people say, oh, if you can't beat them, join them. And
Like compared to like some of the other plans, this new one, the Segwit 2x, it has the feel that they're trying to be as inclusive as possible.
yes. And there's a lot of handshake deals going on. And actually, they tried to do this back in Hong Kong. Do you remember the Hong Kong agreement? there's an article here, we'll put this also in the show notes, where it says, hey, weren't we here once before back in Hong Kong? Like everybody said, hey, this is a great idea. We're all good to go. And then I think this is when Bitmain realized they had an advantage. And this is when they started sandbagging and saying, oh, well, we don't like segregated witness. We think there's a problem. We'd rather have, larger blocks. And we had a handshake deal just like we have now a year and a half ago in Hong Kong. And now we have New York.
So what's going to make them actually change their minds then, really?
Good question. Good question. Maybe they want to.
Because they don't need to.
Well, all of the BIP148 user-accepted soft fork are hammering on Twitter like, this changes nothing. We are full steam ahead August 1st. Like, don't be fooled. These guys have sandbagged in the past. They still got an advantage, and they're going to find an excuse not to do it. And so we get a front row seat for this whole thing to unfold.
So one of the main differences between now and Hong Kong was the user option, the user accepted software.
Right, and that's actually looming in the distance. Maybe they see that as a credible threat, and so they'll fold this time. And this is part of game theory. Like all these guys hammering Twitter, that could just be a part of the bluff.
Right.
Or hey, keep on pushing, keep on threatening.
What about before in terms of the signaling? Like, were there people signaling to do this Hong Kong agreement?
I don't know. I don't remember exactly how there was a big whiff and not follow through. But
what if they weren't just? Is there any kind of commitment to signaling, or like, can they put their money where their mouth is and lock up some coins as a signal?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, they can put hashing power. You can tell what software they're running, right? They signal by running the proper software, and they need to run the software, and then that software needs to find enough blocks in order to trigger things happening. So I think that there's a credible way to evaluate what software is happening, and people not saying, oh, we're participating when really they're not. I think that's a knowable thing, but I don't think there's a way for them to pledge with money, unless you count hashing power as money, which it is. It's electricity and everything else. There's no way to do that.
Do you think there's going to be a capital flight to Litecoin or Ethereum during this volatility?
Well, we were. I'm not sure if you came in a little bit late. We were speculating, like when Bitcoin had its recent dip, we were wondering where did the money go, and it seems that it did not go into the altcoins, because all the altcoins came down as well.
I went back into fiat. Excuse me. Back into fiat.
Yeah.
Presumably, yeah.
What is Litecoin's role? It seems to be like from my understanding of it, is that it's like testing out the software for Bitcoin.
Well, Litecoin is a fork of Bitcoin, and it's already got segregated witness. So a lot of people are saying, oh, well, Litecoin's just a test net for Bitcoin, even though it's a fully functional blockchain with a real world value and hashing power behind it, et cetera. But it doesn't have the network effects that Bitcoin has and all of the infrastructure around Bitcoin. If you walked around Ubud, even though lots of people know about what Bitcoin is, 99% of them won't know what Litecoin is. So these are the problems. The technology is there, but the brand awareness and all of the support is not there yet.
How about Ethereum, which has like 4.5 times the mining nodes that Bitcoin has right now?
Ethereum hasn't been tested from a scaling standpoint the same way that Bitcoin has. So we don't really know, if everyone were to move to Ethereum, we don't know what would happen scaling wise.
Ethereum's almost even.
Ethereum's shouldn't be considered a store of value. I know people are parking money in it, but you've got this platform that's designed for smart contracts to execute that. And it's Turing complete, so it's like your PC. It's open to any kind of virus that can be written for it. So, this thing we call attack surface is essentially infinite. Every time there's an attack on that network, the price of Ethereum can drop. And if it's a major one, like the DAO, then your store of value is going to go down. You don't want that in a store of value. You want it simple and solid without too much experimental crap going on. So, yeah, it's speculative. It's a good speculative coin, but it's not a store of value.
What do you think about Ripple?
Ripple is owned by one company, so it's not decentralized. So,
Is Ripple the same under the same umbrella as Ripple Pay? Ryan Fugger?
Ripple Pay, I've never heard of it.
Am I hearing something? Something playing?
Yes,
Someone's playing a game, maybe.
Anyway.
There was some numbers where it went up dramatically when you looked at all
It must be a
the
commercial playing on one of these tabs.
But I came a bit late. No, it's somebody else's phone's playing something. When you showed all the different alternative coins, there was one that went up a lot, but was it just not significant? Was it a small player? Like it went up a lot, but was it just small in terms
It was
of share?
Litecoin.
No, it was way below Litecoin. Like
Oh,
22%.
And shares or something like that.
Up 22% or something, but it was way down the list. Maybe it's a small player, like maybe.
Yeah, it's really-
it's
It's different now.
Yeah.
You need to look at the volume traded. It can be really, it's not significant unless first the volume is high, and you can really fake the market cap.
Right.
Does SegWit 2x satisfy everything that the user activated software people want? Is it
Yeah, if that goes
satisfy
through,
everything?
then it won't actually kick off. If segregated witness happens before August 1st, then user activated software will not go.
What
What do you think the chances are that it actually activates?
That's the Chinese.
I don't know.
Is user activated software like it's fully compatible with 2x, right? And that I don't know. I'm asking this question is because my understanding of it is it's just the software nodes going. If this is not a SegWit transaction, we're going to
reject
filter
it.
it out, right? So 2x gets through.
Yeah,
So it's like,
yeah, it doesn't reject
so,
2x.
So if so it's a reinforcement. If this activates, 2x activates, and then user activated software also comes in, it backs it up, right? It's more nail in the coffin of big blocks or whatever else is out there.
Well, this SegWit 2x needs to activate at 80%, and then after a certain number of blocks, it rejects anything that's not segregated witness, which gets us to 95%,
Yeah.
and that's supposed to happen before August 1st. And if that happens, then the user accepted soft fork will not kick in at all. And then the 2x will. I mean, we don't know how they want to do the 2x later, but
That's just
So that
we'll do it.
yeah.
That 1st of August is actually in the code right now, except a year ago when it was released. Is that the 1st of August?
No, the segregated witness is November 15th.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, guys.
So what
let's-
does this mean for the price? When it goes down like you just explained.
Well, I mean, all of this information is represented in the price today. There was a big dip in the price when they thought it was catastrophic. Now everybody's had a chance to weigh in, and the price has come back. And now who knows? I mean, Bitmain could have a new idea tomorrow, and things could change. So, and then we'd have to talk about it again, and I have to bore everybody yet again on a Tuesday night. But I don't know. It's gonna. I think the price is gonna be going way up and down, and maybe we'll even get above 23% on Lily's volatility index, and it'll just be a crazy roller coaster ride.
So the question that I think our friend was asking, and I'm super curious about, is towards this July 16th, should we pull out and put it into a different coin, like maybe Litecoin or maybe some other coin, while this is being affected? Because if it does change it drops.
Well,
Bitcoin's pretty stable.
right. Well, I think you do need a hedge. What's the hedge? I don't know. I think with the last drop, right? Maybe it's fiat because with the last drop, we saw that all the altcoins also dropped. So Bitcoin and the fates of all the altcoins appear to be tied together. And so maybe it's a time to sit on the sidelines. I think Vinny Lingam back when we were having these problems 3-4 months ago said, "I'm taking my money off the table." He's like, I have some Bitcoins like in cold storage. I'll never touch them, but everything that I speculate with, I'm taking off the table.
He put it into altcoins.
Did he? He did an ICO. He's doing just fine. He just raised 33 million.
Speaking of hedging, are there any derivative instruments on the underlying of Bitcoin? Does that exist?
There's futures contracts.
futures?
Options as well.
Yeah.
D corp is sort of
Imagine.
No,
Yeah.
no warrants that are easier accessible, for example.
Warrant. What's a warrant?
Option. Call or put option.
Oh, you can do a call put option. Yeah.
You can.
Yeah, dairybit.com.
Where?
Dairybit.com.
Dairy bit.
They do options on Bitcoin and futures. Ivana's really into it.
Ah, yeah.
Dairy, D-A-I-R-Y.
It's like derivative, D-E-R-I,
Oh, right.
bit.
As in
Yeah.
a derivative.
Have there been any
Cow.
successful
Yeah, like-
ICOs in the last week?
I don't know. I don't know. If you guys ever want to talk about an ICO, post it in the Facebook group, and then we can put it on the topic list.
Did you say what an ICO is?
Initial coin offering. It's kind of like an IPO. We talked about it last week. It was kind of the topic of discussion. There's a lot of people raising a lot of money around not a lot of detailed business planning.
Yes. I like it.
Yeah, that's pretty good combination.
All right, guys, next topic. Let's talk about what's going on with Bitcoin. This is actually really fascinating. The mempool. All of this Bitcoin scaling problem has been because the Bitcoin network is full, right? And what you see here is what's called the mempool, or the backlog of Bitcoin transactions that are waiting to be validated, right? And back in May, it started climbing, and we had like 100 megabytes of transactions trying to make it into the next 1 megabyte block, right? And this is what's causing the fees to go up, and this is what's causing everyone to complain about confirmation times.
So there's
And-
not enough miners, or not enough bandwidth, or what's the
There's not enough space in the next block.
When was that?
But that's good for the miners because they make more money.
Right.
What,
Right.
What years was that year? I can't.
Beginning back in May or so of this year, the block started being 100% full, and the fees started going through the roof, right? And this has been dropping off lately, right? And let's see.
Now we're solving a problem that doesn't exist anymore.
Well, and here's the question. This Bitcoin mempool since the beginning of the year, was the backlog since May fake or manufactured? I'll let you decide.
Yeah, where they holding on to.
Oh, is right. Yes, and what these guys have uncovered is that when you're a big miner, you can flood the network with very tiny transactions with very expensive fees, and then if you mine the next block, you can mine all those. You can give yourself all those transactions with all the fees and pay yourself back. Right? So you can flood the network with a bunch of really tiny transactions, and then if you happen to find the next block, you can stick all those transactions back on the next block that you get the reward for, and it doesn't cost you anything.
It's like counting cards.
It's cheating for sure. There is no cheating in Bitcoin.
There's no cheating.
There's no cheating in Bitcoin. Everything, we assume that there are bad actors. We assume that people will act in their own interest. And if this is a possibility, people will do it. But the crazy thing is, this volume is dropping off precipitously. So do we really have full blocks? Do we really have, are all these transactions real activity? Or was this just a way for a certain set of miners to drive up the fee marketplace and make more money? And what we can see here is that, first of all, you can see that this graph looks a lot different. I mean, this graph used to stop at 100, and we would just look at transactions from 0 Satoshis per byte to 100 Satoshis per byte. And because of all the recent activity, we had to change the scale of this graph all the way up to 400 Satoshis per byte, which means, like, I just did a Bitcoin transaction recently. It was $7.
Whoa.
$7 for one Bitcoin. For the fee.
Jesus.
Right.
What would be the incentive for them to stop doing what they were doing? If they were doing that before, why would they expose
I don't
themselves?
know. I don't know. This is a good question. I'm asking you guys. But look, this is what has happened to the mempool. You know, it was well over 100 megabytes at one point, and now we can see it dropping. And this is the total mempool. It's basically catching up. You can see right here, according to this website, the mempool is only 5 megabytes at the moment, and I've seen this drop below 1 megabyte. So we could even have not full bytes, or not full blocks.
Well, a lot of the miners are mining empty blocks still, right?
Yeah, that does happen from time to time.
No, one of them in particular, it's Chinese based, and they mine empty blocks.
Right, because they don't put any transactions in order to drive up the free marketplace for the next block, and there's a
Barry, so these mining companies, do you know much about how they're organised, like how many staff they have, what sort of skills they have in house?
Well, I know that they are very sophisticated operations. They have data centers full of specific hardware for mining Bitcoin, and I'm sure they have very sophisticated programmers that make very detailed decisions about what transactions go under which blocks under what circumstances. So.
A lot of knowledge. And are they private companies?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're private. And is it Bitmain? Is that a pool or a mining operation?
Bitmain, yes.
Yeah, so that's owned by Jihan Wu, and he also builds the Asic rigs that the majority of all miners in the world use. So very detailed knowledge, right down to the bit tag.
Is it still concentrated in China?
Is it publicly traded?
No, concentration of mining.
It's all mostly concentrated in China.
Yeah, it's mostly concentrated. Well, the pools are. Do we know for sure it's the hashing is in China? It's like a pool doesn't. The pool might be located in China, but you might not be hashing it, right?
I mean, you can participate in the pool, and you could have a mining pool out of China, and there could be some kid in Iowa who participates in the pool.
That's so sneaky.
Does
Isn't
anybody?
there a way of people who care about the shit to really do the detective work and identify which are the fake ones? Like, wouldn't you making that show up? And
Let
why
me
can't
see.
they do the stats on it and just go,
Check
well,
this
how many
out.
are fake?
Ampools recently mined transaction, blah, 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 blah. Here's where it gets interesting. Transaction, blah, 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 blah. Value 400 BTC with 8 inputs. Basically does a loop, right? And the last transaction with 399 Bitcoins starts the loop again and does 100 tiny transactions.
See, the
So-
Ampool
There's
is
an
also.
example of how to do there's an example of how to create these fake tiny transactions.
Right. This is the detective work that people have done.
Ampool's the one that's mining empty blocks too.
Yeah.
Right. So Ampool expects to get 40% of its transaction fee back via the block reward. Ampool creates quite a few small dust transactions, and Ampool pays premium fees. The premium fees are the satoshis per byte. Right. So if everyone's paying 100 satoshis per byte, they submit these dust transactions and do like 200 satoshis per byte. And so all of them make it into the next block, and then if they happen to mine the next block, they get all those fees back.
So Ampool is mining, not a coin. So is that a miner?
Ampool's a miner, Chinese miner that is behaving badly.
Oh, there's no guarantee.
There's no guarantee they'll mine that next block, though, is there?
It's not guaranteed, but
Shifts the debt.
but they've done the math, and they reckon they can get 40% of their transaction fees back.
If they do it every time.
Yeah.
It's just running.
Could one
providers.
Could one go through the internet, go through the transactions, since these are all visible in the blockchain, and see how many were of this pattern, and go, oh, okay, 50% of this rise was made of these little fake things, or 60%. And so we can ignore this whole scaling problem because it was a ruse. Or we can do some other solution to people who are doing these tricks. You know what I mean? Rather than taking a scaling approach that could stop people gaming the system like this.
Well, the segregated witness takes away the Asic Boost problem, and it also takes scaling to the next layer in the stack, and should probably make it less interesting for them to try and.
But based on this question, based on what we just talked about, scaling may not even be an issue.
Right. This could be a whole fabricated thing.
Well,
But the
if
scaling
it's
undermines
not a
their-
scaling issue, it's a vulnerability to attack
Yes.
because the scaling is not high
Right.
enough.
And presumably we will scale to this level, even if this is all fake volume.
Eventually.
Right. And a lot of sophisticated software has been created in the meantime about how to dynamically calculate fees, et cetera. And also, it was only an idea in Satoshi's white paper that the fees could overtake the block reward in terms of an incentive to participate. And now we know that the fees can step in and represent a significant value within the next block because someday no new Bitcoins will come into existence.
But
And
if you're playing game theory on this, miners, and you're saying, okay, you know, scaling isn't really an issue right now. It's just a made-up issue by miners. The miners know that they have a long time ahead. They have an idea that they have a long time ahead before scaling actually becomes an issue. So there's a lot of money to make ahead of time, way before scaling actually becomes an issue.
Yes.
So this whole SegWit 2x thing probably will never go into place because these miners have no incentive to do it yet.
Right. They're right now they're sitting pretty with this bottleneck that they can create and control.
And they can control it.
See, we thought that they had an incentive to increase the value of the coin, right? And this is showing it's not true.
Exactly.
Like right now, they make 3.5 bitcoins in fees for 12.5 bitcoins in block reward. And you work that out, it's something like $3,600 of Bitcoin price. That's growing exponentially as they drive the fees even higher. And they wouldn't get that gain if they waited for this organic growth of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And people say, oh, what if aren't they killing their own long-term gains because they're set up to mine Bitcoin? It's their power infrastructure that gives them their edge. The mining hardware only lasts 2 years. They could be retooling as we speak for these new coins.
But what you're saying is that user bend. The users get to have a voice, right? And that can bypass whether they're advantaged.
But that may
what
not
you're saying?
be strong enough as well. That's just a threat. Though. The user.
Right. The user activated soft fork is.
It's just a small threat.
But for whatever reason, this thing has dropped off recently. And check this out. This is quite interesting. Check out the transactions per day. How this has dropped off. It's kind of hard to see, but I mean, you can see it was going up and up and up, and for the last, I don't know, month or so, it's been coming down. You can see there's a corresponding difference in how much miners are making. Check out, this is defined in BTC, and look at their miner revenue per day defined in BTC has come down precipitously.
You could always also say that it was the end of the Bitcoin bull market.
Could do.
You know,
Right,
so
that takes us back to this guy. It says, Bitcoin is dead because it's at capacity. Bitcoin is dead because nobody's using it. All right, I want to do something for all the people in the room that don't like all these numbers and graphs and want to talk about society, right? Because we try and do that as well. We've only got a few minutes left, but I want to get your opinions on Project Titanium. Project Titanium, the plan to decloak cryptocurrency. Check it out. They want to monitor blockchains, de-anonymize wallet addresses, surveil darknet markets, and stop terrorists and money launderers. That's the main thrust of the European Union's Project Titanium. Titanium, which stands for Tools for the Investigation of Transactions in Underground Markets, is a $3 billion project. $5 billion they're going to spend on this thing. That will unite universities, private research firms, enforcement agencies, UK, Spain, Austria. What do you guys think about this? Are you guys frightened, and do you need the help of the European Union and their $5 billion worth of surveillance plans?
Governments are worried they're going to start losing all their drug profits to the dark net.
Yeah. This. I mean, the European Union is spending. They're not exactly swimming in money problem, if I'm not mistaken, but they're spending $5 billion on this, on a market that's only, well, 100 billion. So they're spending 5% of the entire market to try and build a surveillance mechanism.
Isn't that sort of on the table though, you know? It really shows what, like, if you look at cryptocurrency, it attacks at the heart of what funds a nation.
It does. It takes away the power to create money.
And the power to create money, yeah.
Yeah.
They know the threat of it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So in a skew kind of weird, crazy way, it really makes sense for them to do this, right?
If they don't, they're screwed. They can't be late to the party with that threat.
But how does monitoring it help them?
Pass tax on it.
Hey, they want to
collect money.
They want to know. They want to know who you are, what your addresses are, like where you're transacting, and the U.S. government wants you to disclose your entire crypto stash at the border. This is I'm getting a few chuckles. I'm glad you guys can see this in a positive light. Well, and I just want to. I love it here in Bali. It's so nice. And I just want to pose like just a hypothetical. I mean, it's you probably don't have to guess too much what my feelings are on this. I mean, I think this is a violation of our own Fourth Amendment, which means you have to you can't illegally search somebody, right? We also have the Fifth Amendment, which says I have the right to remain silent. So if you ask me, where are your Bitcoins, I should be able to sit there and just not say anything.
But you do have to disclose your $10,000 or whatever you bring in cash.
Well, right. Well,
so that's the concept.
So yeah, the president has said that they don't care about the Constitution or its amendments. You have to. You are forced to speak when you're asked that question. Do you have bearer instruments in excess of $10,000? I think they've established that Bitcoin is a bearer instrument. You've got the keys. You've got the ability. And the question for you guys is, if the government starts, let's say that I'm a good citizen and I give them all this information. I mean, cryptocurrency is not like having a bank account with that much information, and it's information about me as a person that could possibly be leaked, right? And am I safe traveling around the world if someone knows that I don't have this much, but let's say that I had $100 million, and it becomes known to the U.S. government. Somebody hacks that information. Am I now safe to travel the world with the information out in the world that I can produce $100 million worth of value?
Doesn't that occur now, because if you're an American citizen, you have to report on the FBAR, whatever that stands for, foreign bank, blah blah blah, tax it. If you don't, they can put you in prison, just like not filing a tax form, whether you owe tax or not. And in that, you have to declare every bank account that you participate in if the total is over $10,000 of money.
Right, for bank accounts, and I think that.
So what's the difference? So and people could have that information, or we send your tax form off, we send your FBAR, and they have.
Well, but there's a bank involved. Like I could go to the ATM, or if I do a bank transfer, I'm transferring it somewhere. There's a paper trail. If I have $100 million on a USB stick on my phone, and somebody puts a hood over my head, takes me to a extraordinary rendition location.
So they've got to have your password. If they got your password off you,
They've got my thumbs, which they can cut off.
Well, you can use your thumbs to get your money out of your bank account too. My thumb could be used to take money out of my CD. Well, there is a limit. Right, you're saying there's no limits.
This is a good cause to buy Monero.
Yeah?
Yeah, do you notice that when this came out, Monero started to go up?
What's Monero?
It's a private currency. It's the only currency that's private by default. Every transaction you see is private. Whereas Zcash is private.
And same with Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
About FedEx.
FedEx Dash. It's you got a private transaction or clear. What's that? Dash. It's just the fork of a prior project, which is worth $1.5 billion, but has issues.
All right, guys, I'm afraid we're out of time, so I'll just direct you to a few more things that were posted in the group. Last week we talked about Bancor. There's a great detailed article about why Bancor is flawed. Bancor, if you remember, is providing market liquidity and allowing you to peg a new coin based on a reserve ratio. But this researcher from Cornell really picks it apart in a very compelling way. We've also got the New York Times saying that Bitcoin is over and Ethereum is the currency of the moment. We've got this nice legal discussion that Jim posted in the group. I thought this was very interesting. There was we can talk maybe when we go out to dinner afterward, but
it's just all the back and forth.
Yeah.
The whole idea is that it's too early.
Too early to tell. Yes, that sounds like a very lawyerly answer to me. We had the reality quadrant, or the quadsicle. I wanted to have a popsicle after I read The quadricle, a very tasty treat that has way too many things in the reality quadrant, in my opinion. But you can find that in the group. And what else? Oh, I posted this.
Where can you find all this information?
This is in the Facebook group. Are you in the Facebook group?
I think so.
Okay. Anyway, all kinds of conversations taking place in the Facebook group. You have to know somebody already in the group to get into the group because we're exclusive like that. So if you're new tonight and you're not friends with anybody, just come see me afterward. We are going to go to Micah's place after here to continue the discussion over to Kismet. So let me know if you're not a member of the group already. Oh, also, Vinny posted this right before the meeting, talking about his civic ICO. Right, and he had, it's really fascinating that this guy wants to give people self-sovereign identity, basically give you the ability to manage your own identity. He did a pre-sale and raised, I don't know, $33 million, and now they're going to have a crowd sale where they make it open to smaller investors like you and me, and he talks about the process here. With all of the shenanigans going around ICOs, I think Vinny Lingen is trying to bring some rigor to the process. He has a little disclaimer saying that it's, nobody knows how to do this really well yet, but he's trying, and he's got a very compelling blog post about how he decided to do what. That's about all we have for tonight. Please check out our YouTube channel, our Facebook group, our Telegram chat, and we always get together at 5 p.m. at hubud.org every Tuesday night at 5 local time here in Bali. We hope to see you here again next week. Thanks for coming, guys.
Gary on fast forward.
Must be all talked out.
Yeah.
I forgot to bring them today.
Gary,
What's that?
what's the name of the Facebook group?
Bitcoins in Bali.
This one, okay. I'll do it, Johnny.
Bitcoins in Bali.
This one?
Are you gonna do it?
I want to do
Yeah,
it.
that's the one.
Joined.
You did? Yeah. And that's where all those links will find.
Do you know, because I've seen his website of this mining, where you can basically buy